many of you love to foil? How many of you are having trouble with foiling and you have a lot of questions about when to do a slice, when to do a weave, when to do a small stitch, when to do a panel? Well, we're going to be sharing that information with you today. My name is Jennifer Spence. I'm an artisan for Kuhn Hair Cosmetics. I've been an artisan for going on 3 years. I've been in the hairdressing industry for 23 years now. It's just been something that I've loved ever since a small child. I'm very thrilled to be able to work with Kuhn Hair Cosmetics and to share my passion with all of you. Kuhn Hair Cosmetics is a company that's located in Soest, Netherlands. It was created in 1922 by Jan Kuhn. It is a family-owned company. It's not a huge corporation owned by another business and different names and such and diverted all over the place. It's a company that finds a lot of value in its mission statement, which really means a lot to me. The mission statement is a lifetime of dedication to the salon professional. And that means a lot. The products, when they're created, they're thoroughly tested, they're released, and they all work wonderfully. There's not a single product within Kuhn Hair Cosmetics that I don't believe in. And that is so nice to be able to say. What we're going to cover today is foiling fundamentals. It sounds like a very basic class, but with some simple, different tidbits that I'm going to share with you, it can open up a whole new world for color design for you and placement. When we get into talking about, diagonals, horizontals, verticals, we're also going to be talking about head shape, when to use these different approaches. I'm going to cover going around the hairline and getting really close to that client's hairline. When to do it, when not to do it. How to pull the hair out at a 90-degree angle. How to properly put your foils into the hair. And what happens when the foils slip. I can help you with all that. Again, I'm Jennifer Spence, artisan for Kuhn Hair Cosmetics. So, you have a really nice little worksheet that Kuhn has provided for you. And it's a really nice little workbook. So I've designed my flip chart to go along with the workbook so I can really concentrate on sharing what I call the meat and potatoes of the actual presentation. So, when you are creating a color design or a highlight design, there's several different products that you can use for your approach. Kuhn Hair Cosmetics has provided us with 2 of the most wonderful lighteners I've ever used in our industry. We have Cream Bleach, that is a wheat protein base. We have the Magic Blonde, which has Silk LP300. It has a blue-violet color tint to it. It's just really nice. It's a little bit more aggressive than the Cream Bleach. It has a Bisabolol in it, which is a chamomile derivative to make it more gentle on the scalp. You can use it both lighteners up to 20 volume onto the scalp, and then 30 volume off the scalp on the hair shaft. Now, when you're using your lighteners, there's a simple rule of thumb that I always remember to implement when I'm doing my client's hair. The thicker you make the product, the faster it works. The thinner you make the product, the slower it works. So I always remember that when I'm mixing it so that I know which consistency that I would like to utilize when I'm doing my placement design. So if I just wanted to throw a quick panel into that client's hair right in the front and I take a little diagonal, I'm more than likely going to use Magic Blonde and use a 1-to-1 ratio to make it a little thicker to work pretty quick. Because when you are working with back-to-back clients, you've got 2 clients going at the same time, and you're working with an apprentice, and then you're upselling to the point of, okay, let's do a flash of blonde right here to give you a little more visual lift. Having a thicker consistency like that helps it to easier fit into your busy schedule, and it's a wonderful product. It leaves the hair tenacity so healthy and just wonderful. Kuhn has also provided us with high lift blondes. We have special blondes, and you mix those with equal parts of 30 and 40 volume developer, and then we have high lift blondes that are like super ash blondes, and those are the 1500 shades, and you mix those with one part of color to 2 parts of your developer. So those are a little bit higher in alkalinity than the actual, you know, like a level 10 or a level 9, those types of colors. Now, when you're doing foil placement, it doesn't mean you actually always have to use blondes. You can throw some color in there, maybe a really bright piece of, like a bright horizontal section of a really bright red within some brown tones. It's really beautiful, and it gives a really nice contrast when you use those kind of sectioning. Now, foil placement is something that I was talking about. With that being said, the way that you apply these different angles of placements on certain head shapes gives a different effect. And I'll talk about that when we flip over to the next one. So this would be a horizontal section. When you place this, you know, just horizontally with the ground, that's going to give you more of a solid fall of color, more of just like a panel of color within the hair shaft. If you do like a thicker panel section, if you do a slice, it's just going to give you more of a solid type of effect. Now, with the vertical line here, when you use that on the head shape, that's going to give you more of a ribbon type effect, more of a stripe if you want to get that kind of a visual image. When you use a diagonal on different parts of the head shape, I love that, that's my favorite. It gives more of a sweeping feel to the color. You can actually get more movement. You can get more coverage around the head with your diagonal sections. You know, like when you do a crescent on a diagonal, it's just an amazing effect of what you can do with color. These are just a little wonderful art that I've created just for you, but not really an artist. With the different shapes of the head, everybody's got a different shaped head. No one has one shape of a head, but knowing the foundations of head shapes, when you go to do your sectioning for foiling, it makes it a lot easier to get the effect that you're looking for. So there's simple things that you need to recognize when you're analyzing that client's head. Like, where's the apex? And she does kind of resemble a cone head, but just, you know, give me a little grace on that. So the apex is going to be the highest part of the head. And then you've got your occipital bone, which I kind of cut hers off, I think. So we'll just kind of pretend her occipital bone is in here. So we'll say that's the occipital bone. And this is the nape area, okay? So right here being the widest part of the head, that's more of your parietal ridge. Anything below the parietal ridge is actually your length, okay? And anything below the occipital bone really isn't, it's not going to really do too much of an effect unless you have really short hair. Then your hairline, you've got your little hairline there, and you've got your temple areas. So when I'm explaining and demonstrating how to go around the hairline and get really close to the hairline when you're using smaller stitching, that's a definite zone that you need to make sure that you're very well trained on if you're trying to get the effect when they pull their hair back and you've got a nice even highlight around the hairline. Very, very important. And then here would be your fringe area. So that's your fringe area, and the way that that is placed on the head naturally is a natural focal point. So the way that I like to refer to focal points are the parts that you see first. This is actually the back of the head. Now, the way that I subsection my mannequin, she's got really short hair in the nape area below the occipital bone, is I did a parting. And this is great for just like your basic 9 subsections for foiling. So I did it from the crutch of the ear to the other crutch of the ear. I call that the headband section. And then I took an even section from the front to the back. Of course, there wasn't enough hair to finish back here, but that's okay. And this is your temple area. The parietal ridge is the widest part of the head here and all the way around, so down there would be the length. Most of the time in the salon when we're doing like back-to-back foiling, we really concentrate more on the natural effect, like a sun-kissed look. So we usually go heavier around the top and then start getting a less heavier towards the parietal ridge, and usually don't put anything in the bottom. But when people pull their hair back tight, you want to go real close around the hairline if that's the look they're looking for. And a lot of times in our industry, that's a skill. It really is. You've got to really practice to be able to do that. A lot of times I try to talk my clients out of that because it does grow out so quick. But there's women, that's what they want. So you've got to be ready for those customers. So usually I go right behind the hairline, so when they pull their hair back, they see it, but they also don't see that really strong line of outgrowth if you're doing it really heavily. But I love the opportunity to be able to share this with you. I love doing hands-on classes. That really is my forte. Here Hair Cosmetics has given us a different approach than what I've used in the past as far as using the word stitch. So I may slip up a little bit and say weave. So I thought this was good though. When you're taking your subsections, you know, and the basic foundation of foiling, I'll go over that when we're doing the hands-on part. But I really liked this. I thought it was really good because it numbered it simply. Number 1 is mini, and you're doing it in 1/4 subsections. And you're doing it just really close together. It's like a stitch, like a sewing machine. Then you've got your micro, number 2. You're taking a 1/2 inch subsection. You're going a little bit deeper, a little bit heavier with your stitch. Now you go to number 3, that's regular, and that, you know, and I was looking at it and the amount, and that seems pretty basic to me. The 1/4 inch subsection's a little bit wider, and then you go into the regular number 4. It's a 1/2 inch subsection, same type of sectioning as the number 3. Now this one I love. This number 5 slice skip slice 1/4 inch subsection, that's going to give you a little bit more contrast, and it's going to give you more depth to that client's hair. You know, when you're dealing with different types of hair, if it's really thick, really curly, you're not going to take little mini weaves. You're going to take more of a slice skip slice. That way you have more definition in between the colors and you can see the highlights rather than looking like all one color. Now if you have baby fine hair and you want it to look really natural, then you want to go into your smaller stitches there. If you want more of that striped effect, and you know, you'll place it vertically and get that striped effect, and that's fine. For a stronger look, you can go into the slices, and it shows 7 and 8. We've got 1 1/4 inch and 1 1/2 inch, and that's just straight through. A slice is a section that you can see through. I use a lot of slicing in panels in the salon, and a panel is actually thicker than a slice, as you can't really see through as well as you can a slice. And I really like that type of approach with it. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of hands-on here. I'm going to get my little markers out of the way. These things, I'm actually really running out of the black one. I need to get some refills. I've really enjoyed those. Thanks, Robbie, for recommending them, if you've ever seen this video. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how to get really close to that hairline. One thing that I have noticed, whether I'm teaching classes or just observing other hairdressers in the salon, is body positioning with their customer and getting that client's head to where it needs to be able to really have control over the sectioning and application. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate the hairline foil application. I've got another pin in there. She's got like a stacked bob. It's really a pretty little haircut. It's one that I taught at a haircutting class, so all my mannequins had the same haircut. It was one of the trends of the haircutting classes I was teaching at the time. So when you're doing your sectioning, you know, of your 9 section, if that's what you choose to do, you want to make sure that around the hairline it's pulled tight. You go over to like the ear point or the crutch of the ear, and then these sections have to match. You don't want like a big space in here because then you lose control over your application. But I always like to start from the bottom and then go around the hairline. Of course, when I originally started, I always start from the back and then work my way up to the front because the hair's finer around there. So I would actually apply phytoprotein spray around that hairline extra to protect it because that hair generally is a little bit finer. I'm going to take a 1/4 inch subsection here with my tail comb. Get there, her fringe area is trying to fall out there. There you go. I don't know if you can really tell what I'm doing, but I'm taking more of a mini type stitch. This is an example of that client who wants that Dallas blonde hair and she wants it really nice and even and blonde around her hairline. So I'm combing it from top to bottom out from the scalp, and I'm going in and doing my little mini stitch. Now by doing it that way, I'm taking out 50% of the hair. Now if I did this all over the head, back-to-back foils, I would be highlighting 50% of that client's hair. Foil placement, and then I take my product, put it on the hair, place my finger up underneath the edge, and I always go back a little bit at first and then make sure that all my hair is covered, pushing the product into the hair. Then I take the product and move it closer towards the scalp area, getting it really close. Because I've found if you take the product and you start up here and then work your way down, then you have an overabundance of product towards the scalp, and then when you close your foil, it can get kind of messy. You can get little bleed marks, and we don't want that. And I'm closing my foil, but I'm not going to go across and scrape it to scrape the product away from the hair shaft. So I'm just placing my foil like that, using the teeth of my comb. I feel like I get better control that way. I've seen a lot of people try to do this business and it looks like they're doing some kind of comic act, I don't know. You just lose control. And then just make sure that foil is nice and secure and neat. But you do not want to just go across that foil and make it perfect and tight. You want to be able to have some air in there to give it processing room. Now, when I'm going around the front of the hairline here, as you notice, nobody's hairline's perfect. Hers isn't going to be perfect either. So I'm not really going to attempt to try to do this in one foil. I'm going to have to break it up and do it in about 3 small foils to make it perfect. So again, 1/4 inch subsection here. Get the hair tightly away from that section, and I'm going to ask that client to move her head at a tilt. Now, Viola, move your head at a tilt. There we go. So then again, I'm going to comb the hair straight up from the scalp using my mini stitch, just like I did over the ear, so I have a nice consistency. Combing the hair away from the scalp, taking the foil, placing it, using my hands to hold the foil in place, using the product to secure the foil. I'm so thankful that didn't fly off. I'd be so embarrassed. And then again, doing the same thing where I applied the product to the mid shaft to ends first, then going closer towards the scalp. Using the tooth end part of my comb and securing that foil. Now I think it's very important while you're working in the salon to always work in a very neat, professional fashion. And I'm a firm believer that the way you work in the salon should be like you would work as you're teaching a class. Because if you're practicing sloppy in the salon, you're going to get sloppy results, and then you're going to have a hard time demonstrating in a professional manner. So I find it very, very important to do the same in the salon as you would in a class, to get used to teaching the hands-on classes. Now, again, coming 90 degrees out from the head, place my foil, use the product to secure. Hold that foil up in a 90-degree angle away from the scalp. Apply your product to the mid-shaft and ends. My hands are a little sticky there. And then go closer to the scalp, folding the foil over. Just like so. And then I've got one more here. That one looked like it slipped a little bit. So I'm going to show you my little trick on what I do when things like that happen. I'm going to put the lip of the foil over a little quicker, a little bit more than that, and then I'm taking this little fold down and securing it tighter. There we go. And now on to the last hairline foil. And see how nice and neat that's looking? That's the fringe that kept trying to get away. There we go. There we go. I'm doing my little micro weave on my 1/4 inch subsection here. Mid-shaft the ends, and then going up closer to the hairline. You don't want to have an overabundance of product towards the hairline, because once the air hits it, the product starts working, you get a little bit of swelling, because it doesn't get that much swelling with Kuhn lighteners, but it can really create a problem for you if it does get on the scalp where it shouldn't be. So that's my demonstration on hairline foiling. So let's talk about a vertical on the side of the head. Let's say that I'm taking like vertical sections here around this hairline foil. I don't have to do as many foils. In the past we've always taught boom, 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 50% of the head. But now we're using more verticals. We're using more slicing and weaves and slicing and weaves in combination. And that is a very beautiful effect. So that was the micro, and I guess micro mini weave. It just depends. It was actually the mini weave on a 1/4 inch. Micro weave's the same thing on a 1/2 inch scale. But now I'm going to demonstrate going into the regular. Now with the regular, and this is about a 1/2 inch, I'm going to go larger than I would with the comb than I did with the micro and the mini. Going in there. And you're working on a diagonal, so it's really nice for that client. A lot of times they'll be looking down, looking at a magazine, and that works just fine. So let's pretend Viola's looking down at the magazine. And that actually is pretty nice when I'm doing a diagonal. So that way I'm not like bending in like a contortionist. And then, to get that foil really close to the scalp, I like to think of it as an action like that. So it's pushing the foil closer to the scalp as I'm doing my application. So you can get pretty close all the way up to the hairline. Go there. And you're good to go. So, like when you go into your slice, skip, slice on a diagonal, and you go back further into the interior of the hair, that you don't have to do the micro type of weaves all the way through that hair, especially down here and in the interior, because it's just really not necessary. With the diagonal, it covers so much more. And if their hair's on the fine